Yes. Okay, good. If anyone wants to join the talk, it's beginning now. You can stuff your face while watching. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the status of Dancer 2. Who here knows Dancer? Great. Who knows Dancer 2? Who tried it? All right, good. So this talk is indeed for you. Before I actually begin, I want to take a short sidetrack. There's a phrase that I really, really like from my days when I was a sailor. It says, dead men tell no tales. Who's familiar with this one? It's a good one. But there's another paraphrase of this. Dead languages offer no job positions. And you might have heard of various languages being called dead. The thing is that while dead languages offer no job positions, Booking.com is hiring. So if anyone ever asks you again, well, I really want to learn Pro, but is there a job in it? Yes, asshole, there is a job. So, okay. So see me if you're interested. Now, to get on with the official status of Dancer 2. Dancer, if you know it, you know that it's awesome. And, shit. Totally on purpose. No. There we go. So it's really awesome, and let me count the ways in which it is awesome. First of all, it is very fun to use. If you came from CGI, if you came from ModPro, if you came from any of that shitty world that we call web, until now, and you use Dancer, it is fantastic. It is fun to share when you tell people about this, when you work with people about this. It's great. It is profilely beautiful. It is something that can really attract newbies. Often we get people who, why does it show this? There we go. Often we get people on IRC joining and saying, I don't know Pro, but this looks really cool. So I would like to do this. So it's very welcoming to newbies, not just newbies in Pro, not just newbies in Dancer, not just newbies in web programming, newbies in general, people who don't know computers. We get them to come in and go like, well, I use Facebook, but this looks really cool. I'd like to create something. It's really nice. People who don't know programming necessarily, it's fantastic. It is job-wise and marketing-wise working out very well. Companies are liking this. I'm going to give a few examples. And overall, it's a showcase of what modern Pro can be like. I was comparing this at I gave a similar talk about Dancer at a Python conference, and you could see that basically I took Flask, which is their equivalent, and you can see that it looks like shit. It is supposed to be the beautiful language, but it is so inflexible in its syntax that they just couldn't do what we did with Dancer. They couldn't create the same nice syntax. They had to use the shitty thing they like called decorators, which I have no idea what they like. But it is a showcase of how Perl could look like. So overall, not too bad. Of course, the community is awesome, all right? Dancer has a lively, a happy, a kind, a warm community. It is a community that is very forthcoming to newbies. There are no insults. You can swear as much as you want, so there's no censorship, but there are no insults, there's no degradation, we're not humiliating anyone. When newbies come in, they say, I have a problem, I don't really know what it is, and we say, that's fine, let's work on it together. And it is fantastic. It is the warmest community and the warmest feeling I've ever had sitting down and seeing the community interact with each other. It is great. And we hold each person in the community responsible for this approach and this kind of way to talk to people and to approach other people. And that means that it applies to me too. So I once said, I was once adamant about saying no to someone, and I was called on it for not being polite enough and not being respectful enough. And that's really nice. The community comes back and says, well, it's nice that you want everyone to be respectful. You have to be respectful too. You have to apologize. And that was very nice. In GitHub, there's over 840 stars, which used to be the watch, and then they separated it. We have over 300 forks. We have over 1,500 issues just on GitHub. That does include RT, mailing lists, emails, IRC. And one of the nice things about the community and the developer community of Dancer is that we take tickets from everywhere. So if you drop by an IRC and say, I found a problem, here's the problem. We will generate the ticket for you. or we will ask you to do it on GitHub. If you don't know, we'll do it with you. If you don't want to, we'll add it ourselves. If you send an email saying, I found a problem, this will turn into a ticket. So it doesn't have to be just go to GitHub and leave us the fuck alone. So there's tickets in a lot of other places that we sort of try to round up on GitHub, but over 1,500 issues. It's incredible. And this, of course, does include the plugins, the conference talks, the ProMongers meetings, the articles. So it leads to a lot of fame for Dancer, for the community, and it's great. We have newspaper articles, magazines, blogs, news websites. There's a few companies using Dancer. You might have heard of some of them. There's Booking.com, Shutters.com, Novel, UK2, which is an ISP in the UK. All of these use Dancer. Not necessarily for the main website, but for services and for, I know Shutterstock uses it for the search, for example. They have a picture search thing and it's written Dancer. There's government websites, there's personal blogs, wikis, libraries. All of these use Dancer in production, live, all the time. It's fantastic. We participated in Google Summer of Code, and we had a lot of success with it. And we're participating in the outreach program for women. And we're getting a lot of attention from that. That's great. So overall, people know about it, people like it, people write about it, people talk about it, people share it. It's fantastic. So this leads to why Dancer 2? And more importantly, where is Dancer 2? So this is what this talk is about. All of this till now was an intro. Sorry. OK. So let's start with why Dancer 2. Your coworker says, hey, I think I'll just use globals for this. Of course, your reply is this. You might not be Jackie Chan, but this will be your reply. And I kind of want to explain this to the people who don't have this instinct to just go like, oh my God. So globals, what are they really? Singletons. A single instance that cannot be instantiated more than once in more than one place, like having two or more instances at the same time. And in Dancer 1, these are requests, responses, serializers, and hooks. All of these in Dancer 1 are singletons, which means that, for example, you might have a lot of code in your app. It might be split to an admin interface, the REST interface for some introspection for your service. It might be the website. It might be parts of the website. And if you have a serializer, it's a global. That means everything goes through the serializer. If you have a hook for before request, where you want to run code before each request, but you want to just do that for the admin to make sure that a user is authenticated, that doesn't work. It will work for all of your application. And this is a real problem. Now, interestingly enough, we're not that stupid that we came up with this. This is actually the remains of a naive and honest port of a different system. For those of you who don't know the history of Dancer, Dancer didn't start in Perl. The creator of Dancer, Alexis Sucria, he is a programmer in Ruby as well. And he really enjoys Ruby, but he loves Perl. And he saw a system called Sinatra. I was like, oh, this is great. Let's write this and have it in Perl instead. So he rewrote it. He ported it. Now, Sinatra is a very small system. It's a very small web framework. People like it. It has, like Ruby, like anything that has anything to do with Ruby, people talk about it all the time. It has like a gazillion stars on GitHub, a million thousand forks, and no one really uses it for production for heavy systems. They just don't. It's something that is fun to talk about, but no one actually takes it seriously. And it's nice. It's great. But this is the design for Sinatra, because they didn't intend for it to be used for heavy systems. But with Dancer, as soon as we came out with this, people were like, this is great. I'm going to run this huge website with it. Fantastic. No, but now I need a feature. Fantastic. So let's add it. Now Dancer has a ton of features that are not available in Sinatra because users came in and said, we want to be able to do this, and want to be able to do this, and want to be able to do that. And they can. The problem is that we took that architecture that Sinatra had, which was this, singletons, for all of these very important things. And that fucks you over when you have a very serious website running on this that wasn't meant for Sinatra's architecture. which means one of the problems is that you cannot run multiple apps in a single process because each of those will have the shared resources. Now, there is an available fix from the community. Unfortunately, we don't want to use it. It is not optimal. And it basically goes around the problem. It tries to somehow mitigate it. So the question is, what do we do? The answer is Dancer 2. That is the answer. That's why we wrote Dancer 2. It's a complete rewrite. It has no globals. It has a DSL meta layer that is contextual. All right? It has clean internals. It has a clever object system. We're using Moo. This is Dancer 2. It's fantastic. Dancer 2 is more compartmentalized. We can change the internals as much as we want. It does not affect your DSL. Your code stays the same. It is more componentized, so you can actually create Dancer apps and then mount them easily one on top of the other or in multiple applications. And it is more decoupled. You can actually create routes and applications, Dancer apps, in object-oriented form and use them directly. You don't have to even use a DSL. It's decoupled. Dancer 2 is dependencies relaxed, which means that we're not that worried about dependencies anymore. With Dancer 1, we had a similar approach to maybe some other web framework where we don't want a lot of dependencies because we wanted Dancer to be something that users can install everywhere and not worry about the dependencies, so we kept it to a minimal. We had 2, 3, 4, 5, I think that was the tops. But when we talk to users, and they're very active and they always engage, they said, we don't give a shit about dependencies. If we reach a point where we can install Dancer, we're good. It's fine. And we decided not to reinvent every possible thing. We decided to reuse things. Not everything. We're not pulling off half of CPAN like maybe a different web framework. But we are more relaxed. If you take a look at these solutions, CPAN Minus and Cardin and Fatpacker and Pinto, there's a talk about Pinto. Matt mentioned Fatpacker. You should know CPAN Minus, and Cardin is something you should look into. There really is no problem anymore with dependencies. More interestingly, Dancer is, by definition, by policy, fat-packable, which means that the core of Dancer, I'm not talking about maybe speed-ups using access if available, you could actually fat-pack all of Dancer core into a single file using Fatpacker and just upload it anywhere, everywhere, and it will work, which is fantastic. It is cooperation-oriented, which means that we take an approach of, let's see how we can work with other web frameworks, the ones that like to work with others, and see how we can actually do something together. Two interesting examples is Catalyst and WebSimple, where we actually want to cooperate on root definitions, which is something that WebSimple has that is very common to what Dancer has, and Catalyst has something in common with that too. And we kind of want to extract that away and say, let's just generate like the Perl or a standard in Perl for root definitions that has all the features that all these systems use, and let's all of those use that one. And then even your roots are exactly the same, or will work on all of them. It's fantastic. It means every system gets the benefit of the root definition features of every other system. If you're using Catalyst, suddenly you can do Dancer stuff, because Dancer has extra stuff. If you're using WebSimple, and now you're moving to Dancer, the stuff from WebSimple is now also available. It's really, really nice. Middleware is another example. We push more things into middlewares so you could use them in any PSJ application. And lastly, Dancer 2 is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to do it right. To do Dancer right, to do Perl right, to do web right. This is a person named Gene. I call him Dylan. He looks like a Dylan. And Gene came up yesterday? Came up and said, you know what, I'm actually looking at Dancer. I was thinking about doing something with it. And Rakesh mentioned that he has an issue that he wants to solve in a core plugin. This asshole did it in like 2 hours maybe, finished it off. New core code, entered yesterday in less than 2 hours, including reading the core code and understanding what the hell is needed and doing it. And that is an example of what an opportunity really is. I'd like to mention the development process that we have for Dancer 2. It currently looks like this. We have a lot of reflecting, a lot of anguish, and I'll explain why. And then we have berserker releases, where I go nuts and just release, usually while screaming that. However, development process should look like this. We should have time-boxed release cycles. We should have a policy document. It actually is written, but it hasn't been released. It should be revised. We have coordinators, where if you want to add documentation, you want to work on the documentation, there's a person who coordinates the documentation. You can talk to them, and they will know what needs to be documented, where your work will be inserted, and so on. There's a coordinator for the issues that relate to backwards compatibility. There's a coordinator for new features, and so on. And have compatibility shims, where we just make sure that shit works when you move from one to the other. And there's a plan on how to fix this. First of all, we need more time. And needing more time includes managing time better. We need to make Dancer 2 a business priority. It needs to be a corporate priority. We need to revise the policy documents. We need to get coordinators to coordinate, because we all got too busy, which means that we should enlarge the core. Okay? Get more people. We just joined Russell Jenkins recently. Very rusty, if you know him on IRC. Did a ton of awesome things, and we're looking into adding more people to the core. And if you start contributing to Dancer, you do a lot of cool stuff, we might ask you to join core, please. And then create a shit list, or a nicer way is important things that we want to tackle. So I'm going to have to go a bit faster. First of all, things I want to tackle. I want to make all the responsive requests thin wrappers around the Plaque responsive requests. I want to offer full support for raw PSGI subs, improve the path detection, and revise the hook system. It's a fantastic hook system. I want to revise it and even improve it. Make sure that we get plugin interoperability, do some internal cleanups, like decoupling the configuration roles. It's in a branch, need to commit, need to merge. Improve the session handling, remove the Dancer 2 test. I wrote the code yesterday and today and the day before, and I'm almost done with this entire thing, which is really nice. And this is something a lot of web frameworks got dead wrong, and we're getting it right now. And rethink and reunite some roles that we have there. So where do we go? We need corporate attention, which allows us to have more development and maintenance time. We need sponsorship and donations, which helps us go into hackathons. We need workshops like this one. We get user visibility, feedback, collaboration. And you know what? Grab me later if you want to help, and let's chat about it. Thank you. And there are 2 minutes, right? So if you have any questions.
How did you get here today?
Irrelevant. Unknown, irrelevant, immaterial. What? When is it ready? So there are some websites that use Dancer 2 in production already. Booking, for example. I know a few more. And it is already ready for a lot of things, but we want to make it much better. So it really does depend on what you want to do with it. For most things, it is production ready. You can use it. Some do. Anyone else having any other question? There we go. One brave soul.
How complicated is the conversion from Dancer to Dancer 2?
How to do the conversion from Dancer 1 to 2? Yeah. So converting from Dancer 1 to 2, if all you have is DSL, 99% of it will be exactly the same. You just change from the namespace of Dancer to Dancer 2. We changed the namespaces so we can work on it properly. CPAN doesn't support multiple production versions of the same module. And there is a document that we're working on for small things that people need to look into. For, like, we used to have middlewares inside where you could specify in Dancer the middlewares and it would wrap everything. But if you know Plaque, then you don't really need that. So we just removed it and had a document saying, hey, here's the 3 lines you need to do outside the app to actually add the middlewares, and that's it. So there are very small changes from the user's perspective. Any other question? The handsome, devilish-looking guy. Yes.
Okay. I have looked at several different web frameworks over the years, and when I look at how you actually use them, where you can hook in and how the dispatching works and all that. I always get the impression that someone just sat down and thought, oh yeah, this is nice, and then you go with it, and at some point it's too big to change this. Do you have any written down reasons why Dancer is the way that it is, or is the reason just we saw Sinatra and that looked good? From a point of the usability of the one that writes the application.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Do you have best practices?
Do we have best practices? Yes.
That
Are
was
you
not
sure that was the question?
That wasn't really the question.
That wasn't the question.
Let's
Stop
talk
helping.
later, maybe.
He wants to know if this was designed or if it just was kind of put out.
Okay, so the answer one, the problem was that it was a port. The answer two, we said, all right, fuck the port. How would such a system look like? And then it was architected. Now, there are some decisions made that I wasn't part of that I think were wrong, and but the nice thing is that they decouple enough that we can actually change those without changing anything from the user's perspective. So yes, but there is some room for improvement, and luckily, it is possible. That's it. We don't have any more time for questions, so thank you very much. If you want to grab me for some other questions, a chat, whatever, I'll be somewhere. So thanks, everyone.